Hi, I'm Andrew Smith, Associate Director of Virginia Farm Bureau's Governmental Relations Department.
And I'm Stephanie Talon with Virginia Farm Bureau Government Relations. Welcome to week 2 of our General Assembly updates. Andrew, I feel like we say this every year, but with a 30-day session, things are going even faster than normal. And I know you've been very busy. Can you share with us a few of the bills you've been working on?
Sure, Stephanie. I've been working on some local government bills and some taxation bills as well. First one I want to chat about is Delegate Ward's House Bill 1778, and that deals with allowing a locality to adopt an ordinance dealing with debris on a property, and that code section is already there. But this bill would add the definition of clutter. What concerns us, because there are some of these ordinances that are enabling for localities to adopt such ordinances, but what concerns us a bit is the definition of clutter, including the words mechanical equipment. Now, anybody that's lived on a farm or grown up around a farm know that often farmers have equipment parked on their property, and not everybody's far from a road. Some of the properties can be seen from the road and have either farm equipment they no longer use or currently use that to some people's eye may seem like trash, but one man's trash is another man's treasure, especially on a farm when you come to working on pieces of equipment. So we are concerned, and we did ask for an exemption for working farms or land in a working farm area, but unfortunately the subcommittee did not choose to adopt that amendment. So that bill will be heard in full committee this week. It was carried over in full committee till next week for the patron to be there. Another bill, Stephanie, that seems to be a perennial the last few years is bringing back the state's estate tax. And there is a bill by Chairman Watts of this House Finance Committee, and that's House Bill 2157. But to her credit, she is trying to exempt working farms from the estate tax. Interesting that the estate tax would come back at the level that's equal to what it is at the federal level. So that currently is a high level for 2021. That would be $11.7 million. And then if there's an estate over that amount, that's when the exemption comes into play. We appreciate the patron trying to exempt working farms. The definition we don't feel really includes all farms, or potentially we're not sure if it includes forest land. But still, we have to realize that that threshold is 11.7 million. Now, if the federal government lowers that threshold in the future, like in 2025 or beyond, that those exemptions would really come into play. So we have talked to the patron and expressed our concerns, and will do so in committee. And she understood our concerns. We appreciate that. Stephanie, Senate Bill 1260 by Senator John Bell deals with the notice when a condemning authority for eminent domain would like to come on property to inspect for a potential project. Often we think of VDOT in cases like this for a new road or expansion of a project. We've also, seen energy projects over the last few years where eminent domain has come into the news quite a bit. So this process right now is a two-step process where first the landowner would get a notice requesting permission. Then after 15 days, if the condemning authority hadn't received that, VDOT would send a notice of intent. They would say why they want to come on, who would be coming on, and things like that. This bill is attempting to try to streamline that. That would be one notice and move that notice to 30 days from 15 days before they would come on. But right now we support a more respectful method, that first asking for permission. And honestly, even though that they don't need the permission, under their authority, we think a more respectful approach, because Stephanie, if you've ever received a notice when somebody wants to come on your land, it's a bit disheartening, and you want as much respect and consideration as possible. So we have talked to Senator Bell. He understands their position, and we'll see how that plays out. That bill was in committee yesterday and was carried over to see if there was something that could be worked out. So we do appreciate his office talking to us and his understanding of our position. Stephanie, how about you? What have you been working on?
I want to to talk about three bills that were heard in the agriculture committees this week. And the first will be the Dairy Producer Margin Coverage Premium Assistance Program. And that's a tongue twister right there. We heard of this one last year, and it's back again. This would provide assistance to our dairy producers who are enrolled in the federal margin coverage program to reimburse them for their premium payments. We saw this bill last year. The policy had huge support, but again, it comes down to money always. These bills passed, again, the respective Senate and House Agriculture committees, but have been re-referred to what we call the money committees. Hopefully in a tight budget year, we'll be able to find some funds for this, but we're closely watching that one, and we'll continue to support it along the way. The second is a local farm and food infrastructure grant program bill, and this is by Delegate Rasool. And this would basically extend and expand the requirements or the eligibility for the APHID fund for localities who are interested in perhaps investing in capital infrastructure, projects related to local food production and direct marketing, such as meat processing facilities, farmers markets, infrastructure for food hubs. If they're interested in making matching funds and applying for a grant, this would be a great opportunity for them to take advantage of to help get some of that much needed infrastructure in localities who might not have it. We see this a lot of times, again, with meat processing, particularly during the pandemic. Producers haven't been able to get that access to the infrastructure needed. So we are supporting this bill, and it did pass both the House Agriculture Committee and House Appropriations Subcommittee this week, and we'll continue to support that along the way. Lastly, I want to mention the Virginia Agriculture Food Assistance Program. There's two versions of this bill, identical. On the House side, it's carried by Speaker Eileen Fillercorn. On the Senate side, it's carried by Senator Hashmi. And this would establish a program and a method for charitable food organizations such as food banks to receive grants and then use that funding to reimburse farmers who are donating fresh products to charitable food organizations such as food banks. So a lot of the times we see producers who are interested in donating their products to food banks. It can be cost prohibitive, not just the food itself, but the cost of transporting, of packaging, processing. So this would be designed to provide grants to help alleviate those costs. And I think that's a very unique idea, and we are, again, supporting that one along the way. That too did pass the agriculture committees and the money committees as well. So we'll be following that one. Andrew, what about Ben? What has he been working on lately?
Well, as you know, Ben's been working on a number of bills, but one that I'm sure he'd want me to mention today is one that's been taking up a great deal of his efforts, and that's House Bill 1786 by Delegate Ward, chairman of the Labor and Commerce Committee. She has a bill that would be removing the farm worker exemption from the minimum wage. As you know, working on the farm and the farm operations are a little bit different than a major corporation or other type of business. And so we do have an exemption that's been in there to allow farmers to not have to follow the minimum wage for farm workers on their farm. Unfortunately, for the second time in recent years, we've had a bill this year, House Bill 1786, by Delegate Ward, that would remove that. Ben has been communicating their position to committee members, and we've had 2 action alerts. So if people haven't responded to that and they've got that email, please click that button and fill out that action alert and let their voice be heard on this issue. It's very important. Many of our operations are operating on a shoestring. Tractor expenses are way higher than they were years ago, but our income levels, how much they get for a crop, is pretty flat. So that is really important to the operations of our farmers across the state. So please, I hope our members will express their thoughts on that. How about Martha? Have you talked to her today? What is she working on?
Yes, Martha, of course, is our budget guru, and she's been closely watching and advocating for our budget interests, particularly 2 amendments related to the first related to Ag BMP cost share funding. That's been one of our top priorities for years now. We do have a budget amendment in to increase funding for that, as well as additional funding for cooperative extension for our producer members. They may remember that both of these were critical issues prior to session. So we're excited to see support for that and continue to move that along through the process. Speaking
Well,
of Martha,
Martha's been working on something else. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
that's exactly
you,
right. I
you
think
made
we're on
me
the same
remember
page.
you talked about BMP funding and extension. So it made me think of the survey Martha's been encouraging people to fill out.
That's exactly right. She has been working with a number of state and federal agencies to come up with a way to capture those voluntary agriculture best management practices that may not be documented. It's absolutely critical that we get an accurate count on those before the year 2025, when we, of course, we have the deadline to meet our water quality goals. So this is a real effort, a real cooperative effort to capture those, and resulted in what we're calling the Virginia Farm Voluntary Agriculture Best Management Practices Inventory. And that's a mouthful, but in short, it is a survey that we encourage producer members in the Chesapeake Bay watershed to complete. So again, we get that accurate detailing of those best management practices that are on the ground now. It's critical. 2025 is coming very quickly, and if we don't have that accurate numbers of what's happening out there, we might not meet those goals mandated. So again, very strongly encourage producer members to complete this survey. If you are a producer member, you should have received an email from us, a link to the survey. If you did not, please contact your field service director. They have plenty of information on this and a variety of methods for you to complete the survey. If you're not comfortable completing it electronically, they can help you do so in another way. But again, it's really important that you take the time to complete this survey.
You're right, Stephanie, and I can't tell you and how many times, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, when we're talking about ag BMPs, how many producers said, well, there wasn't money that year, but I needed to do it, and they went ahead and did it. So we need to capture those type things to find out where those practices have been implemented but weren't captured through the mechanism of implementing through the state agencies.
That's exactly right. Excellent point. We appreciate everyone joining us here for this update. A more comprehensive look at all of the bills that we were following this week will go out in our weekly email update. If you're not receiving those, please contact a member of the GR team and we'll make sure you get those. But thanks for following along.